Last time I had the audacity to try to use my car as a car, so the shifter cable broke. Also, over the winter while starting it, it kinda spit out the alternator and the belt. So first we carefully remove the center console, and here we can see which shifter cable broke. We unbolt the bracket, and as is tradition, break the bolt doing so. Unbolt the mount and the grommet, pull the cable through. Then from the engine bay, pull out the other half of the cable. The secret to making any progress is to avoid any other obligations you may have, no matter the consequences.
Eat, shower, shop, clean, dinner.
Okay.
Repeat it back to me.
We unbolt the shifter in the front, detach the old cable, and throw it out, allowing us to attach the new one. Now, addressing the alternator, we need to pull the motor. I've shown the process multiple times and live streamed myself doing this, pretty much talking to myself, which was terrible, so there's no footage up until this point. We are at the point where the subframe is about to come out and the motor will be unbolted from the driver's side and the passenger side motor mounts. Looking at the rear left caliper dust boot, we can also see why it probably hasn't been making full contact with the rotor. Now we can put the jacks under the motor and begin unbolting the mounts. With them unbolted, we slowly shimmy the engine forward and begin lowering it. With the alternator out, we can see the source of the problem. This was clearly making contact with something. If we look back where it mounts, we can clearly see it was the water pump pulley. Next, it's time to do my favorite thing in the world, extract broken bolts. We need to drill a hole through the center of the bolt and then use an extraction bit that will allow us to back out the broken piece. Unfortunately, I kinda messed up drilling the second one, so instead of a third bolt, we're gonna mount the alternator with some hopes and prayers here. While we're at it, we can try and extract the one from earlier. Unfortunately, it was too tight and I felt like the extractor bit was about to break, so I moved on. While the motor was out, shifting in this car has always felt terrible, so I decided to order a new kit for the Spider K-Swap. Funny enough, it came with a custom shifter cable that replaces the one we just installed, because that's just how this project goes. Back on the transmission, we need to remove the big bracket by removing 2 bolts on top and 1 in the back. Next, we can install the new bracket on the transmission by tightening down these 2 bolts, and then realize we installed it too early and take it right back off. We need to install the actual mount for the shifter cable. This is held on by pretty small hardware, so it's a good idea to use Loctite. With that in place, we can install the new bracket held on by 2 bolts. So where it all went wrong was the fact I put a K24 alternator on when running a K20 water pump housing. So I sourced a K20 A2 alternator and bought some new OEM hardware for it. Since we're only 2 out of 3 here, I also used some Loctite and then torqued it to the 16 foot-pound spec. With the alternator installed, we can install the accessory belt while we have the space. We need to plug in and tighten down the 2 alternator connections. Now our goal is to get the motor high enough to install the passenger side mount so we can begin to get it in place. We need to carefully raise the motor up, but the tricky part is we're aligning multiple things at once and we also don't want to crush any connections. With the passenger mount aligned, we can hand tighten the bolt and begin working on the driver side mount. We can get it roughly in the area, then go to the front of the engine and let it sit inside the bracket. When it got close, I put a screwdriver through to not let it back out. Then we head to the back of the car, jack the motor up until the driver side mount aligns. We hand tighten all the bolts to the transmission and finally get a bolt through the mount. At this point, the engine should be supported and we don't need to worry about it falling anymore. Back at the front of the engine, the bolt needed a little bit of convincing. Now we can torque the mount onto the transmission at 38 foot-pounds. Since I've been hitting the head a little too much, I like to mark any critical bolts after they've been torqued. Next, we do the bolt through the mount at 64 foot-pounds. Back on the passenger side, we can torque the bracket to 38 foot-pounds, or at least attempt to.
I don't know if that felt good. I genuinely can't tell if I just stripped it or not. I think I just stripped it.
I'm just going to ignore that and torque the front motor mount to 47 foot-pounds. Now we connect the fuel line and the coolant line. Next, we put the clutch cylinder in place and torque it down. Back at the front of the car, we attach our new shifter cable and feed it through the firewall into the engine bay. We can seat the shifter cable in our shiny new bracket, tighten it down, and attach the shifter. Now we can repeat the same for the old cable, just with a little convincing. Next, we attach all our grounding cables to the chassis, our coolant inlet, throttle cable, charge harness, and negative terminal. That finishes up the engine for now. Now we can lift the rear subframe into place, align the rear engine mount. We torque the rear subframe to 59 foot-pounds, and then the rear motor mount to 69 foot-pounds. Now we can finally move on to the outboard suspension. We start by applying high temperature grease to the axle spline, use a jack to lift the knuckle, get the axle through, and install the nut. We can manipulate the knuckle to get all of the bolts through the linkages, although some may still need some convincing. With the suspension linkages attached, we bolt the knuckle up to the strut and begin torquing everything. Rear toe at 36 foot-pounds, lower control at 58, front lower linkage at 58, and the strut to 59 foot-pounds. Next is the brake rotor and the caliper bracket with the bracket torque to 44 foot-pounds. Now we install the pads and the brake caliper like any old brake job, and in the end, it should resemble something like this. After repeating that to the other side, we can install the exhaust muffler and the mid-pipe. The fitment of this exhaust was never 100%, but that's a battle for future me. With the exhaust in place, we move on to the crash bar and torque it to 128 foot-pounds. We can install the taillights to get this thing road legal, fill up the fluids, and install the wheels. While doing this, I noticed a play in it that really feels like a wheel bearing, which is crazy since I just did them. The problem is most likely the fact that I was the one who did them. This is the money shot we all wait for when working on our project cars. Now we torque the wheels to 80 foot-pounds and the axle nut to 159 foot-pounds. So when I was going to move the car into my driveway, this started happening. I took a look underneath and saw a nice pool of clutch fluid. Good thing it's easily accessible here between the motor and the firewall. I noticed the banjo bolt may have been loose, so I tried tightening that up. When I tried to move the plunger, it wouldn't move at all. I took off the boot and the plunger and noticed the whole cylinder is wedged sideways in binding. I took pliers, straightened it out, and that allowed it to move, so then I just installed it and hoped for the best.
Come on.
Now we put the intake on and connect up the battery. We roll the car outside and with the fire extinguisher nearby, try to start it up. No response. That's because I left the positive terminal loose. And now the battery's dead. So it fired up right as expected. After everything warmed up, I did a quick trip around the block and then this happened. This was actually me not seating the shifter cable and the lever all the way. Once that was sorted out, everything actually ran really well without issue. The car is actually drivable for once, so that's why next time we're removing the gas tank. Thanks for watching.